Hello again, Year Sixes. This is day 3 now. Hopefully day 1 and 2 went okay, and your equivalents of percentages and decimals and fractions helped you to buy some very cheap biscuits. I think it's biscuits. I've said biscuits a few times in the last video and this one, and if it's not biscuits, I feel like a fool. But I'm going to go with biscuits. Today, we're still working with fractions, but we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be multiplying some fractions. And the key thing is, there's a really easy trick later on, but actually it's good to get a good understanding of what's happening when we're multiplying these fractions. So here's quite a nice diagram. You should be able to see it on the screen, which is going to hopefully help you to understand that this is the sum, okay? And we're multiplying fractions 1/4 times 3/5. Now, when we times something by a fraction, we're actually finding the fraction of that number. So if you remember, finding half of 10 is like doing 10 times a half. And you can do that with a decimal, with a percentage. 50% of 10 is the same as 0.5 times 10 is the same as half of 10, and it's all 5. Okay, so when we're doing 1/4 times 3/5, we're actually finding 1/4 of 3/5. Okay, and to do that, we can do a simple trick, which we'll come on to later. But it's good to think about what's happening. So you can see here, here's a square of something, okay? And it's actually been cut up into fifths this way. This strip here is a fifth. This strip here is a fifth. Yeah, you happy with that? There are 5 strips down. And quarters this way. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. That's the whole. 4/4 is a whole, 5/5 is a whole. So 4/4 and 5/5 are the same thing, so that's fine. But they've cut it up into both of them because that helps us. All right? Because if we take this 1/4 and we shade 1/4, which is what we're finding, okay, blue, which they've done, and then we see our 3/5, which have been shaded yellow. Okay, so they've shaded 1/4 blue, 3/5 yellow. The bit where those bits cross, where those two colours cross over, is the answer. Okay, and you can see it's 1, 2, 3 little squares. But what are the little squares? What fraction of the total is that? Well, if you're feeling clever, you'll notice that 5 times 4 is 20. There are 20 big squares, and if you're feeling really clever, you'll see the answer at the bottom, which is really frustrating, isn't it? But the answer is 3/20. 3 little 20ths. Yeah, 1/4 times 3/5 is 3/20. Let's have a look at another one. Okay, 2/3 times 3/4. Again, they've done thirds along here. They've three rows. They've cut their nice rectangle into 3, and they've cut it into 4 this way. They've outlined their 2/3, 2 rows, and 3/4, 3 columns. And the bit where they intersect is the answer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 what? 6, again, if you look down here, it's upside down. Turn your head around. 6/12, which is the same as a half. So 2/3 times 3/4 is 6/12, or a half. Interesting. 2/3 of 3/4 is a half. Now there's lots going on there that we could delve beautifully deeply into, but we're not going to, because there's some interesting stuff going on. Oh, hello. You may have noticed this, or you may already know this. There's something that helps us. If 1/4 times 3/5 was 3/20, okay, and 2/3 of 3/4 was 6/12, let's focus on the 6/12 for a minute. We can see that what's happening to the numerators. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 3, the same numerator. And the denominators, 4 times 5, 4 times 5 here is 20. Ah, hello. When we multiply fractions together, all we have to do is numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. Okay? Remember that. Multiplying fractions, we multiply the numerator by the numerator, the denominator by the denominator. Okay, that's important. Does it work for our second calculation? Yes, it does. 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so it's helpful. It helps us to get an answer quickly. It helps us to check if we've understood right when we're doing our sum. Now, there's also an interesting thing going on which we can do. So if I've got some pizza, okay, and I had this much pizza, which was 3/4 of the pizza, and I cut it in half, I'm finding half of 3/4. Okay, so what's this? All right, it is actually 3/8. Okay, 3/8. All right, so that's what you're going to be doing today. You're going to be multiplying some fractions together. Tomorrow is different, but again, I'm not going to leave a video for tomorrow. I'm just going to do 2 videos this week, year 6s, because you've probably seen enough of me. But tomorrow is sequences, but I think you should be able to do the mild and the hot tomorrow, because those sequences are fairly straightforward. It's just good practice, all right? We're not worrying about the nth term unless you really want to see if you can work out the nth term of some of those sequences, which you're more than welcome to do if you can remember at all what the nth term is. We'll do that another day, okay? But today, you're finding fractions of fractions. And sometimes it will ask you to divide. It will say, well, what is 1/3 divided by 4? That's the same as finding a quarter of a third. So it's 1/3 times 1/4. Remember that, put it in your head right now, because it's important and it will help you. Enjoy your maths. I hope it's fun, and do some good stuff. See you soon.